Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of the Ice Spikes world. The first thing we do today is destroy our 2 shacks that we stored villagers in. Last episode I got 2 chickens from Chicken Jockey, so now I'm building a pen for them to live in. Then I lured them in, and then I bred them together. Then I grindstone a shovel so I can enchant it. But it was nighttime, so I decided to light up my area. But then I got back to my chicken pen and one of my chickens was gone. So I bred the remaining chickens together. Then I enchanted my shovel and I got an almost perfect shovel. Then I made an axe to enchant. But because I didn't have enough levels, I had to go to the skeleton farm. When I reached level 30, I enchanted a shovel and got efficiency 4. Finally, I merged my 2 shovels together to get a perfect shovel. However, because my skeleton farm is so slow, I went to the stronghold. However, first I need to link the Iceboat Highway to the portal room, which involved creating a path through this cave. Then I made it to the portal room. Then I entered the Nether. Then I went back to the fortress that I found in episode 1, where I killed a whole load of blazes. And I went back to the warped forest near the portal, so I can kill a whole bunch of endermen. So I could craft Eyes of Ender to open up the end portal. However, I didn't bring a bow with me, so I had to pillar up all the towers. So I pillared up all the towers to destroy all the crystals. And after hitting the dragon a few times with the sword on a few perch cycles, I killed the dragon and beat the game. And of course I grabbed the dragon egg. Upon my return to my base, I realized that my base is actually really near to spawn. Once home, I gathered a whole load of blocks, put mending on my shovel and my axe, and I returned back to the stronghold. And I went in the end gateway. And I started the search for an end city. And to be fair, this was pretty boring, like it was 7 minutes since the last clip and basically you missed nothing. And finally, once I crossed this gap, I discovered the end city. And I killed a shulker for shulker shells. And I'm pretty sure this end city had no loot besides for the end ship. And I finally got an elytra. And apparently I hadn't gotten any iron armor in this world so far. Then I decided to head home. And when I went through the end portal, apparently there was loads of XP on the other side. I demolished this hillside so I could build a sugarcane farm. So I finished the sugarcane farm, however I haven't got all the sugarcane to fill it yet. Then I went to the Nether, and I dug down to Y15, and then I started digging, and when I hit a patch of impassable lava I turned right. Then I finally got ancient debris, and 3 more. Then I basically found nothing except for quartz and gold. Then I left the ancient debris mines, and I was right next to the Nether fortress, and somehow I got a wither skeleton skull. Then I dug back towards the portal, and somehow I didn't know about this ruined portal that was right next to my area. Once I was back at base, I chopped down a tree, and another one, and I gathered a whole load of potatoes. I replaced some of the ice with dirt, and I added some water, and some walls. You see, I want to make this box into a villager breeder. So I tilled the dirt, and I planted potatoes. And I added beds that I got from a shepherd. With this hole and these 2 trapdoors we're now finished. Now all I need is villagers. Then I lured them into the farm. Then randomly I did some enchanting to get an unbreaking book, so I could max out my elytra. And I dug out an area underneath the villager breeder to collect the villagers. Then I threw some eggs and my RNG was insane. I threw 7 eggs and I got 6 chickens. Then I randomly started demolishing this hill. Then I gave the villagers in the breeder some potatoes to get breeding. And I bred my chickens. And I continued demolishing this hill. Then I chopped down another tree. Then I started placing logs down for foundations for my house. So I continued round the back. Unfortunately my enchanting table was in the way, so I had to get rid of it. Unfortunately my facade went through the villager hall. And my facade went through a hill. And the back of my house went through the villager breeder. So I'd have to move the villager breeder. Then finally my outline was complete, but I still had to dig out my interior, which meant that I had to move my mine that I built in the previous episode. Plus I had to demolish the ice spike that it was next to. Then I started adding stone bricks to the facade. Then I realized it was too much of a nightmare to build my house in this spot, so I demolished it. So I looked around for a better spot. And as I was about to start construction, I found a villager that had escaped the breeder. So I patched it up with some glass. So I finally started work on the foundations in this new spot that's slightly to the north, and I've rotated the whole thing 90 degrees. Unfortunately, I need to get rid of a lot of terrain. You see, the terrain in this spot is slightly more elevated than the terrain elsewhere in my base, and this ice spike was in the way. Then finally I had my outline cleared, and therefore I had to destroy this entire hill, which is kind of boring. And this spot was so hilly in fact that there was iron in it. So I continued demolishing the hill on camera, then I turned off my camera and continued demolishing the hill. And this was the end product of all that work. So with that foundation in place, I started installing spruce log pillars. You see, my house is going to be a 3-story house. However, I needed new logs. So I grew another spruce tree and cut it down. So I had enough logs to finish the top of the facade. Then I did the sides, then the back, until I ran out of logs again. And I finished up the other side. Then I cut down my dark oak tree. Then I grew and demolished another one. And I grabbed some stone bricks. This was my final look at the shell as I was filling in the walls with stone bricks. Then I started installing lanterns. Then I started tearing out the terrain so I could build a floor. And I used dark oak wood to fill in the floor. However, I needed to mine up some quartz so then I could get XP to repair my shovel. With my shovel repaired, I could install the floor again. And I somehow discovered a flooded cave under my house. So I mined up all its coal. Then I got back to work in the snow. And I filled in more of the floor. So I finished up the walls and the floor. So I began to install lanterns on the roof. However, because I don't have an iron farm, I need to go and get lava to smelt up raw iron. So then I could install more lanterns on the roof. However, I was still short on iron, so I had to kill some golems. So then I completed the lanterns on the roof. Then I tore down this hill in front of my house. Then I tore out some stone to replace it with dirt, which required a lot of dirt. So I gathered up resources for an expedition, and I sailed along the Iceboat Highway, and I left the comforts of the known world to look for a grass block. And I also got clay for the first time. Then I took off again and continued the search. And I discovered a poppy. And I also discovered some random cobblestone in the ground. And down there was a flooded cave. And in there I discovered another hole. And all that did was lead me to a random tunnel. So the hunt continues for grass. And I continued to have no luck. However, I found a ruined portal, however there was nothing useful in the chest. So the hunt continues. So then I paused my game to do a bit of research, and turns out grass blocks don't generate in ice spikes biomes. So I decided to fly back to the Iceboat Highway, and from there I could get back to base. So once I got back, I crafted a cartography table. So I leveled him up, and I got a trial chamber map. So I flew out to the location. So when I found the spot, I started digging down, and I found the trial chamber. And I got dead bushes for the first time, plus a whole load of awesome loot from the pots. Then I fought some skellies, and some spiders next door, and some baby zombies, and a breeze. And later on when I was exploring the trial chamber, I found a dungeon inside. And I fought some skeletons in the tiered room. And I found normal eggs in the dispenser. And I found a honey bottle in another room. And I found melon seeds in the dungeon behind that room. In the main hall I found some bamboo in a barrel. And some scaffolding. And I found the powdered snow room. Then it was just more of the same of exploring and killing mobs. Then as I was exploring I discovered a mangrove tree in one of the rooms. So I gathered a whole load of mangrove saplings. And I took some wood with me, of course. Then I found a room with coloured beds, so I took all the coloured beds. And I took a few more eggs from another dispenser. Then I started using my trial keys. Then one of the vaults gave me an ominous bottle. So I drank it so then I'd get tougher battles. And when I went back into the big room, it was absolute chaos. Especially the baby zombies with swords. But then I killed some by trapping them like this. Then I went into this corner and accidentally spawned loads of baby zombies and I almost died. These guys did 1 heart per attack and I got down to 1 heart, so I almost died. But don't worry, I survived. but I got an ominous key in the end, so it was all worth it. Then I went back to the leveled room, but then I had to hide behind some bricks because I was getting harassed by skeletons. Then I decided to open an ominous vault. Then I got caught in another big battle, and I opened some more vaults, and also ominous ones. Upon my return to base, I organised all the things I got at the trial chamber. So I threw the new eggs into the chicken pen. Then I started tearing down more ice spikes, so I could use that land to grow mangrove trees. So I cut some down. Then I cut down a big spruce tree. Then I took a villager out of the breeder. Then I tried to move him down this ice river, however it was a dead end in both directions. So instead I put him in a boat, and I yanked him up with a fishing rod on my third attempt. And I drove the villager down the iceboat highway, and I rode him off the edge into a lake, and I built a prison around him. So I drank my ominous bottle, and the raid didn't start for some reason. However, I gave him a composter and then it started. Apparently pillagers don't spawn on ice, so I needed to go back to land to fight them. The first wave was quick and easy. The second wave was also kinda easy, but there were vindicators this time. I tried creating a wooden platform for the pillagers to spawn on, but they didn't spawn on it. However, wave 3 I had a Ravager to deal with. Then wave 4 arrived, and still no evokers. However, on wave 5 we got our first totem, and a fight with the Ravager on ice. Then came wave 6, and another totem. Wave 7 was a double Ravager wave. And I also almost popped my totem. But after a long drawn out Ravager battle, I got yet another totem. And another. And a third one. And in the final wave, I got 3 more. Boom. Boom. And boom. And with that, the raid's complete and I'm the hero of the village. And on that note, I'm going home to do some trading with my hero of the village discounts. And I placed down more torches to stop the spread of snow. And I rebuilt my enchanting table so I could enchant a fishing rod. And in the end I got a maxed out fishing rod. And on that note, thank you for watching and stay tuned for episode 3.